Welcome, dear traveler, to this sacred space of rest and peace. As you settle into this moment, allow your body to sink deeper into comfort. Feel the weight of the day lifting from your shoulders like autumn leaves falling gently to the earth. Tonight, we journey together through ancient wisdom, through stories that have brought peace to countless souls across the centuries. The Buddha taught that peace is not found in the absence of difficulty, but in the presence of understanding. As you listen to these tales, there is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to become. Simply breathe, simply be, simply rest. Let your eyes grow heavy, let your breath become slow and deep, and let us begin. Story 1: The Monk and the Heavy Stone. In a monastery nestled among misty mountains, there lived a young monk named Sho. Each morning, Sho would wake before dawn, his mind already racing with worries. He worried about his meditation practice. He worried about pleasing his teacher. He worried about achieving enlightenment. His thoughts were like stones he carried in an invisible sack, and each day that sack grew heavier. One morning, the old master called Sho to the courtyard. There, beneath an ancient pine tree, sat a large stone, smooth and gray, worn by centuries of rain. "Sho," said the master, his voice like wind through bamboo, "I want you to carry this stone to the top of the mountain and back. But there is one rule. You must think about the stone the entire time. Think about how heavy it is. Think about how difficult this task will be. Think about your aching shoulders and tired legs." Sho bowed and lifted the stone. It was indeed heavy, perhaps 30 pounds of solid rock. He began to climb, and as instructed, he thought about the weight. He thought about how far he had to go. He thought about how much his arms hurt. Each thought made the stone feel heavier. His shoulders burned. His back ached. By the time he reached halfway up the mountain, he was exhausted, the stone feeling like it weighed 100 pounds. He completed his task and returned to the master, placing the stone down with a heavy thud. His whole body trembled with fatigue. "Rest now," said the master. "Tomorrow you will do it again." The next morning, Sho returned to the courtyard, dreading the task ahead. But the master smiled and said, "Today you will carry the same stone to the same place, but this time I want you to notice the morning. Notice the mist between the trees. Notice the birds singing. Notice the feeling of your feet on the earth. Notice your breath. Do not think about the stone at all." Sho was confused but obeyed. He lifted the stone and began to walk. He noticed the way the morning light filtered through the pine needles, creating patterns of gold on the forest floor. He noticed a deer watching him from a distance, its eyes large and gentle. He noticed the coolness of the air on his skin and the rhythm of his breathing. He noticed the stone only as a present reality, not as a problem to solve or a burden to endure. When he reached the top of the mountain, he was surprised to find he was not nearly as tired. The stone had not changed weight, but somehow it felt lighter. His shoulders did not burn. His legs did not ache in the same way. When he returned, the master asked, "Tell me, Sho, which day was the stone heavier?" Sho understood immediately. "Master, The stone weighed the same both days, but the first day I carried the stone and all my thoughts about the stone. The second day I carried only the stone." The master nodded. "This is the burden of the mind. We carry not only our tasks, but our stories about our tasks. We carry not only this moment, but our fears about the future and our regrets about the past. The stone of the present moment is manageable. It is the invisible stones of thought that exhaust us." From that day forward, when Shou felt burdened by worry, he would ask himself, "Am I carrying the stone, or am I carrying my thoughts about the stone?" And in that question, he would find a lightness, a spaciousness, a peace. As you rest now, feel any burdens you have been carrying. Notice them, and then, gently, see if you can set down your thoughts about those burdens. Not the burdens themselves, but your stories about them. Feel yourself becoming lighter. Feel yourself sinking deeper into peace. Breathe in, breathe out. Rest.
Story 2: The Garden of Acceptance. There was once a gardener named Yuki who tended the gardens of a great temple. For 20 years, she had cultivated every corner of those grounds with devotion. She knew every plant, every stone, every pathway. The garden was her meditation, her prayer, her life's work. One spring, after days of gentle rain, Yuki went to the garden at dawn and found devastation. A great storm had come in the night. Ancient trees had fallen. Carefully arranged stones had been scattered. Flowers she had nurtured for years had been torn from the earth. The beautiful pond had overflowed, washing away the moss she had spent a decade cultivating. Yuki stood at the garden gate, and her heart broke. Tears streamed down her face. She felt as though a part of her own body had been destroyed. She wanted to scream at the sky. She wanted to demand that the universe explain itself. How could something she had loved so carefully be taken from her so suddenly? She sat at the gate for a long time, weeping. The head priest, an old woman with kind eyes, came and sat beside her. She said nothing. She simply sat. After a while, the priest spoke softly. "Tell me, Yuki, when you first came to this garden 20 years ago, what did you find?" Yuki wiped her eyes. "It was overgrown, wild. There were weeds everywhere, trees growing in crooked directions, stones buried in mud." "And what did you feel when you saw it?" Yuki thought back. "I felt excitement. I saw possibility. I saw potential. I saw beauty waiting to emerge." The priest nodded. "And now what do you see?" Yuki looked at the destruction again. Slowly, something shifted in her perception. She saw the fallen tree, yes, but she also saw how it had created an opening where light could now reach the shade-loving ferns that had never thrived before. She saw the scattered stones, but she also saw new patterns, new possibilities. She saw the washed-away moss, but she also saw fresh earth, ready for new growth. "I see," she paused, "I see another beginning." The priest smiled. "The Buddha taught that all things arise and pass away. This is not a curse, it is the nature of reality. Your garden was beautiful because you accepted each season, each change, each necessity to prune and plant. The storm is also a season. It too must be accepted." "But I worked so hard," whispered Yuki. "Yes, and that work was not wasted. It brought beauty to the world. It brought peace to your heart. It brought joy to thousands who walked these paths. That cannot be taken away by any storm. and now you have the gift of beginning again. How many gardeners get to create their masterpiece twice?" Yuki sat with these words, and slowly, very slowly, she felt her grief transform. Not disappear, the grief was real and valid, but transform into something else. Gratitude for what had been, curiosity about what could be, acceptance of what is. She stood up, bowed to the priest, and walked into the garden. She began to work, not with frantic energy to restore what was lost, but with gentle presence to honor what remained and nurture what was emerging. Years later, visitors would say that the garden was the most beautiful they had ever seen. When asked her secret, Yuki would smile and say, "I learned to plant in the soil of acceptance. Nothing else grows quite so well." As you rest tonight, notice where you might be resisting what is. Notice where you are fighting against reality, wishing things were different than they are. Can you, just for this moment, accept things exactly as they are? Not forever, not as a way of giving up on change, but just for now, can you stop fighting and simply be with what is? Feel your body relaxing. Feel your mind settling. Feel yourself sinking into acceptance, into peace. Breathe. Rest. Let go.
Story 3. The Student's Question. In a monastery high in the mountains, a student named Kenji spent years studying with a renowned Zen master. Kenji was devoted, sincere, and deeply frustrated. He meditated for hours each day. He studied the sutras. He served the community, but he could not find peace. His mind was constantly turbulent, churning with thoughts, questions, doubts. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Kenji went to his master. "Teacher," he said, his voice tight with frustration, "I have tried everything. I sit in meditation until my legs go numb. I contemplate the koans. I follow every instruction, but my mind will not be still. Thoughts arise like waves in a storm. I cannot find peace. What am I doing wrong?" The master looked at him with gentle eyes. "Come with me," he said. He led Kenji outside to a small pond in the monastery garden. The surface of the pond was completely still, perfectly reflecting the moon above. "Look at the water," the master said. Kenji looked. The water was clear, calm, beautiful. The master picked up a small pebble and tossed it into the pond. Ripples radiated outward, disturbing the perfect reflection. The moon's image became fragmented, dancing across the moving water. "What do you see?" asked the master. "The water is disturbed. The reflection is broken." "Yes, and what should the water do to become still again?" Kenji thought this was a trick question, but he answered honestly. "Nothing. It should do nothing. If left alone, the water will naturally return to stillness." The master smiled. "Exactly. The water does not try to become still. Stillness is its nature. When disturbed, it simply allows the disturbance to pass. It does not fight the ripples. It does not judge the ripples. It does not try to force itself to be different than it is in this moment. It simply observes, like the sky observes clouds passing. The sky does not push the clouds away. It does not cling to the clouds. It simply allows them to move through its vast space." That night, Kenji returned to his meditation cushion. When a thought arose, he noticed it. When he noticed himself judging the thought, he noticed that too, without judging the judging. When he noticed himself trying to force peace, he gently released the effort. Over and over,
He simply allowed. He stopped throwing pebbles. And gradually, like water returning to stillness, his mind settled. Not because he forced it to, but because he stopped disturbing it. Peace, he realized, was something he had to stop preventing. As you drift towards sleep now, release any effort to force yourself to relax. Release any judgment about whether you are resting correctly. Simply allow. Let thoughts arise and pass like ripples on water. Let your breath flow naturally. Let sleep come when it's ready. You don't need to try. You only need to allow. Rest now. Peace is here.
Story 4. The Mountain's Teaching. There was a monk named Daichi who lived in a small hermitage on the slope of a great mountain. Every day he would look at the peak of the mountain, which rose thousands of feet above him, its summit often hidden in clouds. One day, Daichi told himself, I will climb to the top. When I reach the summit, I will have achieved something great. Then I will be at peace. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, and months to years. Daichi never began the climb. There was always something that needed to be done first. The hermitage needed repair. His meditation practice needed to be perfected. He needed to be stronger, more prepared, more worthy of such an undertaking. One day, a wandering teacher stopped at his hermitage for tea. Daichi told her about his dream of reaching the summit. "When will you go?" she asked. "Soon," Daichi said, "when I am ready." The teacher sipped her tea thoughtfully. "May I tell you what the mountain told me?" Daichi leaned forward. "The mountain spoke to you?" "In its way," she smiled. "I asked the mountain, when does a person reach your summit? And do you know what the mountain said?" Daichi shook his head. The mountain said, they reach the summit the moment they take the first step. For the summit is not a place, it is a direction. It is the choice to begin, to move, to engage with the path. Some people spend their whole lives at my base, dreaming of my peak, thinking that someday they will be ready, someday they will begin. Others take one step and discover that the peak was never the point. The walking is the point. The present step is the point. The teacher continued, "The mountain also told me this. Every point on my slope is equally sacred. The base is not less than the summit. The climber who takes 10 steps and sits to rest in full presence is more truly at peace than the climber who races to the top while lost in thought, never actually experiencing the journey." Daichi felt something shift inside him. "So you're saying I should climb the mountain?" "I'm saying you are already on the mountain. You have always been on the mountain. Every moment of your life is a step. The question is not, when will I begin? The question is, am I awake to the step I am taking right now?" Daichi looked around his simple hermitage. He saw the way morning light fell across the worn wooden floor. He felt the warmth of the teacup in his hands. He heard birds singing in the pines. He realized he had been so focused on an imagined future achievement that he had been missing the sacred reality of the present. "Right now, in this moment, where am I on the mountain?" he asked. The teacher smiled. "Right now, you are exactly where you are, and that is perfect. That is complete. That is whole." The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not something you attain in the future. It is something you recognize in the present. It's like a woman searching everywhere for her glasses while they sit on top of her head. You are not separate from the peace you seek. You are not climbing toward wholeness. You are wholeness, climbing. After the teacher left, Daichi sat on the porch of his hermitage. He no longer felt the restless urgency to achieve something great.
Instead, he felt a quiet appreciation for where he was. He might climb to the summit one day, or he might not. It didn't matter. What mattered was being fully present for this step, this breath, this moment. And in that presence, he found a peace more profound than any summit could offer. The mountain had taught him, you are always already home. Let this teaching settle into your heart now. You are not traveling toward peace. You are resting in peace. You are not becoming something you are not yet. You are recognizing what you have always been, whole, complete, enough. Right here, right now, in this bed, in this moment, you are home. Breathe deeply. Rest completely. You have arrived.
Story 5. The Two Wolves. An old Cherokee elder was teaching his grandchildren about life. He told them a story. Inside every person, there is a battle between two wolves. One wolf is fear, anger, envy, resentment, lies, and ego. The other wolf is love, peace, kindness, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandchildren thought about this for a moment. Then one child asked, "Which wolf wins?" The elder simply replied, "The one you feed." This story traveled across the world and reached a Buddhist monastery, where it was told to a young monk named Hana. Hana took the teaching very seriously. She was determined to feed only the good wolf. When she felt angry, she suppressed it. When she felt afraid, she denied it. When she felt jealous or petty, she pushed these feelings away and tried desperately to feel only love and compassion. But the more she fought against the dark wolf, the stronger it seemed to become. Her denied anger would erupt unexpectedly. Her suppressed fear would manifest as anxiety. She felt like she was failing at this simple teaching. Confused and exhausted, she went to her teacher, an old monk who had been practicing for 50 years. "Teacher," she said, "I understand the teaching of the two wolves. I am trying so hard to feed only the wolf of love and peace, but the wolf of anger and fear keeps growing stronger. What am I doing wrong?" The old monk was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "May I tell you a different version of this teaching?" Hana nodded eagerly. Inside you, there are indeed two wolves. One represents difficult emotions, anger, fear, sadness, jealousy. The other represents positive emotions, love, joy, peace, compassion. The question is not which wolf wins. The question is, how do you treat each wolf? "I don't understand," Hana said. The monk continued, "If you starve the dark wolf, if you deny its existence, if you try to kill it, it will indeed become vicious. It will grow more aggressive in its demand to be acknowledged. It will attack you from within. But if you acknowledge the dark wolf, if you sit with it and ask why it is hungry, you may discover something important." "What's that?" "The dark wolf is not your enemy. It is a part of you that is trying to protect you. Anger arises to defend your boundaries. Fear arises to keep you safe. Sadness arises to help you process loss. These feelings are not mistakes, they are messengers. When you deny them, you deny a part of your own wisdom." The monk stood and gestured for Hana to follow him to the garden. They stopped at a pond where koi fish swam in the clear water. "Look at the fish," he said. "In this pond, there are orange fish and black fish. Do the orange fish try to drive out the black fish? Do they war against each other?" "No," Hana said. "They swim together." "Exactly. They are all part of the same pond, the same ecosystem. Your inner world is like this pond.
all your feelings, light and dark, are part of the same system. They all belong. The key is not to feed one and starve the other. The key is to become the pond itself, spacious enough to hold all the fish without being disturbed by any of them. Hana thought about this. So when I feel angry, I should not try to push it away. When you feel angry, acknowledge it. Say, "Hello, anger. I see you. What are you trying to tell me?" Listen to it with compassion. Usually, you'll find that anger is protecting a hurt. Fear is protecting vulnerability. Jealousy is revealing a deep longing. When you meet these feelings with kindness instead of rejection, they transform, they soften, they become teachers. And what about feeding the good wolf? The monk smiled. The good wolf doesn't need special feeding. Love, compassion, peace, these are your natural state. They emerge spontaneously when you stop being at war with yourself. When you accept all of who you are, when you become the vast, spacious pond instead of just one kind of fish, the good wolf doesn't need to be fed. It simply is. From that day forward, when Hana felt difficult emotions arise, she practiced meeting them with curiosity and kindness. "Hello, fear. I see you. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. What do you need me to know?" And gradually, the inner battle ceased, not because one wolf defeated the other, but because she learned she was not a wolf at all. She was the vast, peaceful awareness in which all wolves could rest. As you prepare for sleep, notice if there are feelings or parts of yourself you have been fighting. Can you make space for all of it? The fatigue and the restlessness, the peace and the worry. Can you be the vast, accepting awareness that holds it all without judgment? You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be whole. And you are already whole. Rest in that wholeness now. Let all the wolves sleep in peace.
There was once a woman named Lynn who worked in a busy marketplace. Every day she would set up her stall before dawn and work until after sunset. The marketplace was crowded, noisy, and full of difficult people. Someone was always bumping into her, complaining about prices, or trying to cheat her. One day, a man knocked over her carefully arranged display of pottery. Several pieces shattered. Lynn felt rage rise up in her chest. She began to shout at the man, who shouted back. They argued loudly until the other merchants told them to be quiet. Lynn could not let go of her anger. For the rest of the day, she replayed the incident in her mind, imagining what she should have said, feeling the injustice of it burning in her heart. That evening, she went to the temple and spoke with the old monk who served there. "How can I find peace?" she asked. "I am surrounded by difficult people who make me angry every single day. I try to be calm, but they provoke me. What should I do?" The monk thought for a moment. Then he said, "Let me tell you a story. A man was rowing his boat down a river. He was relaxed, enjoying the gentle current, the sunlight on the water. Suddenly, another boat came out of the mist and crashed into him. The man was furious. He stood up, ready to shout at the careless boatman who had hit him. But then he saw that the other boat was empty. It had broken free from its mooring and drifted downstream. There was no one to blame." The monk paused. "Tell me, Lynn, can you be angry at an empty boat?" Lynn thought about it. "No. If there's no one in the boat, there's no one to be angry at. It would be foolish to shout at an empty boat." "Exactly," said the monk. "Now I ask you, are people really so different from empty boats?" Lynn frowned. "What do you mean?" "The man who knocked over your pottery, was he trying to hurt you specifically? Or was he simply caught up in his own distraction, his own pain, his own story? He was like an empty boat drifting through his life, driven by forces he probably doesn't understand. His thoughtlessness had nothing to do with you personally. He would have bumped into anyone who was standing there. The monk continued, "When someone insults you, are they speaking truth about you, or are they speaking from their own suffering, their own fear, their own wounded heart? They are empty boats propelled by currents of conditioning and pain. When you understand this, anger loses its grip. You see that taking it personally is like shouting at the river for flowing." Lin sat with this teaching. "So I should just accept it when people treat me badly?" "I'm not saying you shouldn't protect yourself or set boundaries. If an empty boat is drifting toward you, you can steer out of the way. You can secure it to a dock. But you do this from a place of clarity, not from a place of rage. You respond instead of react. You see clearly instead of being blinded by the story that someone is trying to hurt you." "But what about when someone is deliberately cruel?" The monk nodded. "Even deliberate cruelty comes from suffering. The Buddha taught that those who harm others are caught in their own pain. Understanding this doesn't mean approving of harmful behavior. It means seeing through the behavior to the suffering beneath it. And from that seeing, you can respond with wisdom. You can protect yourself without adding more anger to the world." Lin thought about the man who had broken her pottery. She realized she knew nothing about him. Perhaps he had just received terrible news. Perhaps he was sick. Perhaps his mind was full of unbearable worry. He was indeed like an empty boat driven by tides she couldn't see. She felt her anger begin to dissolve. In its place came a quiet sadness for the suffering of all beings, including herself. And beneath that sadness, a deep peace. She could not control the empty boats that drifted into her life, but she could stop taking them personally. She could see them with compassion and clarity. As the weeks passed, Lin found that the marketplace had not changed, but her experience of it had transformed completely. People still bumped into her, still complained, still caused problems, but now she saw them as empty boats, and she navigated around them with ease. Sometimes she even helped secure a drifting boat, offering kindness to someone who was clearly suffering. And in this seeing, she found a freedom she had never known before. Tonight, as you rest, reflect on the empty boats in your own life. The people who have hurt you, annoyed you, disappointed you. Can you see them as empty boats? Not to excuse harmful behavior, but to free yourself from the burden of taking it personally. Can you see that their actions flow from their own conditioning, their own suffering, their own wounded heart, and have little to do with your worth? Let go of the weight of these stories. Let the empty boats drift past. You are safe. You are whole. You are free. Breathe deeply. Release. Rest.
In a monastery famous for its strict meditation practice, there was a young monk named Taro who took everything very seriously. He meditated with intense concentration. He followed every rule precisely. He studied the scriptures with grave dedication. But there was something that troubled him deeply. In the meditation hall, there was a statue of the Buddha, and the Buddha was smiling. This smile disturbed Taro. How can the Buddha smile? He wondered. The world is full of suffering. People are hungry, sick, dying, wars rage, hearts break. How can anyone smile in the face of such pain? He asked his teacher about this. The teacher, an old nun named Keiko, listened carefully to his question. "You are troubled by joy in the presence of suffering?" she asked. "Yes," said Taro. "It seems disrespectful. It seems naive. It seems like denial of reality." Keiko nodded. "Come with me."
She led him to the monastery garden, where she tended a small plot of vegetables. It was autumn, and some of the plants were dying, their leaves brown and withered. But new seedlings were also sprouting, green and vital. "Look at this garden," she said. "What do you see?" "I see plants dying and plants growing," answered Taro. "And which is real, the death or the life?" "Both are real." "Exactly, both are real. Both are happening at the same time, in the same garden. Now tell me, if I smile at the new seedlings, does that mean I am denying the death of the old plants?" Taro thought about this. "No, it means you are appreciating the life that is here." "Yes, and if I grieve the dying plants, does that mean I am unable to see the new growth?" "No, both can be true at the same time." Keiko pulled a carrot from the earth, brushed off the dirt, and handed it to him. The Buddha's smile is not a denial of suffering. It is a recognition of something deeper than suffering. The Buddha saw clearly all the pain in the world, more clearly than most people can bear to see. He did not turn away from suffering. He looked directly at it, and yet he smiled. Do you know why? Taro shook his head. Because he also saw the truth that suffering is not the only truth. He saw that within every moment, no matter how difficult, there is also beauty, there is also connection, there is also the possibility of awakening. There is also the profound mystery of existence itself. His smile is not happiness in the ordinary sense. It is a deep acceptance of the full reality of life, the bitter and the sweet, the death and the birth, the sorrow and the joy. She bit into the carrot with a satisfying crunch. This carrot grew in soil made rich by dead plants. Death fed life. Life returns to death. The cycle continues. The Buddha smiles because he sees the whole cycle and is not caught in judging one part as good and another as bad. He sees the perfection of the process itself. Taro was still confused. But when people suffer, should I smile? Won't that hurt them? There is a difference between the Buddha's smile and a foolish grin. When you meet someone in pain, you meet them with compassion, with presence, with care. You don't paste on a fake smile and tell them everything is fine, but deep within you, beneath your compassion, you hold a quiet joy, not because their suffering doesn't matter, but because you know they are more than their suffering. You see their Buddha nature, their fundamental wholeness, even when they cannot see it themselves. This inner smile is not visible on your face, it lives in your heart. It is the smile that says, I see your pain, and I also see your unbreakable essence. She continued, when you smile the Buddha's smile, you are not escaping from life. You are embracing all of it. You are saying yes to the full catastrophe, as the ancient Greeks called it. Yes to birth and death. Yes to meeting and parting. Yes to joy and sorrow. Yes to the whole mysterious dance. That night, Taro sat in meditation before the Buddha statue. He looked at the smile with new eyes. He saw in it not a superficial happiness, but a profound acceptance. He saw not a denial of suffering, but an acknowledgement of something vast enough to hold all suffering without being destroyed by it. And for the first time, he felt his own lips curl to a small, genuine smile. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was exactly as it was, and that was somehow, mysteriously, enough. Years later, students would comment that Taro had the same quality as the Buddha statue. When asked about this, he would say, I learned that suffering is real, and so is joy. Death is real, and so is life. Sorrow is real, and so is peace. To deny any part is to miss the whole. The Buddha's smile is the smile of someone who has stopped fighting reality and started dancing with it. As you drift toward sleep, can you feel a gentle smile in your heart? Not a forced grin, but a soft acceptance of this moment exactly as it is. You don't need to fix yourself or change yourself or improve yourself right now. You can simply smile at the fact that you are here, breathing, alive, resting. In this moment, beneath all the complexity, something is profoundly okay. Let that quiet smile settle into your cells. Let it soften your face, your shoulders, your whole being. Rest in the smile. Rest in the acceptance. Rest in peace.
There was a wealthy merchant who owned a magnificent teacup. It was an ancient piece, delicate and beautiful, passed down through generations. The cup was perfect, not a chip, not a crack, flawless in every way. The merchant treasured this cup above all his possessions. One day, he invited a famous Zen master to his home for tea. The merchant carefully prepared the tea ceremony, and when the time came, he brought out his precious cup to serve the master. The Zen master held the cup, admired its beauty, and said, "This is indeed a lovely cup." The merchant beamed with pride. "It has been in my family for 200 years," he said. "Not a single blemish, perfect in every way." The master nodded. Then he said something that seemed strange. "This cup is already broken." The merchant was startled. "What do you mean? The cup is perfect." The master set the cup down gently. "Look closely at the cup. What do you see?" "I see a perfect, unbroken cup," the merchant insisted. "I see a cup that will one day break," the master said. "All things that come together must one day come apart. This cup was made from clay, water, and fire. One day it will return to clay, water, and fire. Perhaps a servant will drop it. Perhaps an earthquake will shake it from the shelf. Perhaps centuries from now it will simply crumble from age. The cup's breaking is as inevitable as the sunrise. In this sense, it is already broken. This is not a sad truth. It is simply the truth." The merchant felt a wave of anxiety. "But I have been so careful. I can protect it." "You can be careful, yes, and perhaps your care will preserve it for many more years. But can you prevent the earthquake? Can you stop time? Can you make impermanent things permanent?" The merchant was quiet. He realized he could not. "Let me ask you something else. How does it feel to own this cup?" The merchant thought about it honestly. "Wonderful when I am looking at it, but also anxious. I worry about it constantly. I worry someone will break it. I worry about earthquakes, fires, thieves. Sometimes I am too afraid to use it. Sometimes I cannot enjoy it because I am too busy worrying about losing it." The master smiled gently. "So this perfect cup brings you suffering?" "Yes," the merchant admitted, surprised by this realization. "It supposes it does." "Now," said the master, "what if you truly accept that the cup is already broken? What if you fully embrace the truth that this cup will not last forever?" Then I would be sad all the time? Would you? Let's find out. Close your eyes. Imagine that 100 years from now, you and I and everyone we know will be dead. This cup will either be broken or it won't, but you will not be here to see it. Can you feel that truth? The merchant closed his eyes and sat with this uncomfortable reality. "Now," continued the master, "knowing that you and the cup are both temporary, knowing that this moment of having tea together will never come again, how do you feel about this cup right now?" The merchant opened his eyes and looked at the cup.
something had shifted. The cup seemed more beautiful now, more precious, not in spite of its impermanence, but because of it. Each moment with the cup was unique, unrepeatable. I feel, the merchant searched for words, I feel grateful. I feel I want to appreciate it fully right now, in this moment. Yes, the master's eyes lit up. This is the gift of impermanence. When you truly accept that all things are temporary, you stop taking them for granted. You stop postponing joy. You stop being so anxious about loss that you cannot appreciate presence. You use the cup. You enjoy the cup. You share the cup with friends. And when it breaks, as it inevitably will, you can grieve and you can also accept. Because you knew this moment was coming. You were not living in denial. The master picked up the cup and took a sip of tea. The Buddha taught that all suffering comes from clinging to what is impermanent and trying to make it permanent. We suffer when we grasp, but the cup's breaking is already written in its nature from the moment it was made. We can fight this truth and suffer, or we can accept it and be free. From that day forward, the merchant's relationship with the cup changed completely. He used it regularly. He shared it with guests. He appreciated its beauty without anxiety. And yes, 5 years later, a servant did drop it, and it shattered into a dozen pieces. The merchant felt sadness, genuine sadness. He had loved that cup. But underneath the sadness was a deep peace, because he had been expecting this moment all along. The cup was already broken, and because he had accepted this truth, he had been able to fully enjoy every moment he had with it. He carefully gathered the pieces and had them made into a mosaic which hung in his tea room for the rest of his life. And whenever anyone asked about it, he would tell them the story of the cup that was already broken and how that breaking had set him free. The truth of impermanence applies to everything you love. Your body is already broken. It will age, change, eventually fail. Your relationships are already ended. Everyone you love will one day be gone, or you will. This moment is already past. Even as you experience it, it is becoming memory. And yet, strangely, accepting this does not make life meaningless. It makes it infinitely precious. As you rest tonight, feel into the impermanence of this moment. This breath you are taking right now will never come again. This particular configuration of thoughts and feelings will pass. Even this sleepiness, this tiredness, this need for rest, it will shift and change. Everything is flowing. Everything is temporary. And because everything is temporary, this moment is sacred. This breath is irreplaceable. This rest is a gift that will not be here tomorrow. It is only here now. Let this awareness settle you deeper into peace. You are not holding on to anything. You are allowing everything to flow. Like the cup that is already broken, you are already free. Breathe. Let go. Rest in the flow.
Story 9. The Backwards Flowing River. In a village beside a great river, there lived a woman named Amaya who could not stop worrying about the future. She worried about her children, her health, her finances, her aging parents. Every night she would lie awake imagining terrible scenarios, playing out disasters that had not happened and might never happen. Her constant anxiety made her exhausted, but she couldn't stop. I need to prepare, she told herself. I need to think through every possibility. If I worry enough, maybe I can prevent bad things from happening. One day, a wandering monk came to the village. Amaya went to him and said, "Teacher, I am tortured by worry. My mind is always in the future, imagining problems. How can I find peace?" The monk listened carefully. Then he walked with her to the riverbank. They stood watching the water flow past, steady and strong, moving downstream toward the sea. "Tell me," said the monk, "which way does the river flow?" "Downstream," Amaya said, confused by the simple question. "Always downstream?" "Yes, of course. Water always flows downhill, toward the sea." The monk nodded. "Now I want you to imagine that you could worry this river into flowing upstream. If you worried hard enough, focused intensely enough, spent enough sleepless nights thinking about it, could you make the river flow backwards?" Amaya laughed despite herself. "Of course not. That's impossible. The river flows according to gravity, according to the nature of water. My worrying cannot change that." "Exactly. And yet you spend your nights trying to do exactly this with your life. You try to control the future through worry. You try to prevent what cannot be prevented. You try to make the river of time flow backwards, to reach into tomorrow and rearrange it to your liking. And this is as impossible as making this river flow upstream." Amaya felt something click into place. "But if I don't worry, if I don't plan, won't terrible things happen?" "Let me ask you, how many of the terrible things you have worried about have actually occurred?" Amaya thought back over the years. She had worried about thousands of things. Perhaps 5% of them had actually occurred. And even those she had not prevented through worry. They had happened anyway. "Very few," she admitted. "And of those few terrible things that did happen, did your worry prepare you for them? Did it help?" Amaya reflected honestly. When her father had fallen ill, all her worried imaginings of his illness had not prepared her for the reality. When her son had broken his arm, her years of worrying about his safety had not cushioned the shock. In fact, her habit of worry had made her less present, less able to respond with clarity when real problems arose. "No," she said quietly, "my worry did not help, it only exhausted me." The monk picked up a leaf from the ground and placed it on the water. They watched it float away downstream. "Life is like this river," he said. "It flows in one direction, from past to future. The present moment is like the point right here where we stand. This is the only place you can touch the water. You cannot touch the water that has already flowed past. You cannot touch the water that has not yet arrived. You can only touch the water that is here, now, at your feet." He continued, "Your worry is an attempt to reach downstream, to grab the water before it gets here, to control it before it arrives. But you cannot do this. No one can. The future is like the river downstream. It is not yet here. It is unknowable. It is uncontrollable. When you try to control it through worry, you are abandoning the only moment you actually have, this one." "But don't I need to plan, to prepare?" "Planning is different from worrying. Planning is wise action in the present moment. You see a storm cloud and you bring in the laundry. You save money for the future. You teach your children wisdom. These are actions you take now, in the present. Worry, on the other hand, is suffering in the present about an imagined future. It is not action. It is mental spinning that creates stress without creating solutions." Amaya asked, "How can I tell the difference?" Ask yourself, is this thought leading to a concrete action I can take right now? If yes, it is planning. Take the action, then release the thought. If no, it is worry. Notice it, acknowledge it, and gently return your attention to the present moment. What is here, now? What is actually happening? Not in your imagination, but in reality.
They sat by the river for a long time. The monk taught Amaya a practice. Every time she noticed herself worrying about the future, she would say silently, "The river flows downstream. I cannot make it flow backwards. What is here now?" And then she would notice her breath, the feeling of her body sitting, the sound of the river, the temperature of the air, the actual, tangible present moment. Over the weeks and months, this practice transformed Amaya's life. She still made plans, she still took care of responsibilities, but the compulsive worrying began to fade. When her mind tried to grab the future, she would remember the river and return to now. And in the now, she found that life was usually okay. Even when problems arose, she could handle them better without the fog of anxiety clouding her mind. She learned that the present moment is the only place where peace exists. The past is gone. The future is not yet here. Peace is always and only available now. As you lie here preparing for sleep, notice if your mind is trying to flow upstream. Is it reaching into tomorrow, next week, next year? Is it trying to control what has not yet happened? Can you gently bring yourself back to the river's edge, to this moment, to this breath? Let the river flow. Let tomorrow be tomorrow. Let now be now. Rest here. Rest now. Peace is only ever here.
There was a young boy named Kenzo who loved to catch things. He caught fireflies in jars, butterflies in nets, and fish in buckets. He loved the moment of capture, the thrill of possession. But he noticed something troubling. The fireflies would dim and die. The butterflies would beat against the net until their wings were damaged. The fish would swim frantically in circles until they stopped moving. One day, Kenzo caught a beautiful bird. It had brilliant blue feathers and sang the most enchanting song. He held it carefully in his hands, admiring it. The bird struggled, its tiny heart beating rapidly against his palm. An old monk who was passing by saw the boy and stopped. "What a beautiful bird," he said. "Yes," Kenzo said proudly, "I caught it." "I see," said the monk. "Tell me, how does it feel to hold that bird?" Kenzo thought about it. "It feels good to have it. It's mine now, but also my hands are cramping. I'm afraid to hold it too tight because I might hurt it, but I'm also afraid to loosen my grip because it will fly away." "Ah," said the monk, "so even though you have the bird, you are not free. The bird is not free, and you are not free. You are both imprisoned, the bird by your hands, and you by your fear of losing the bird." Kenzo had not thought of it this way. "But if I let it go, I won't have it anymore." "True," said the monk, "but tell me, when the bird was flying free in the trees, singing its song, was it not more beautiful, more itself, more alive?" Kenzo remembered seeing the bird earlier that morning, perched on a branch, its song filling the air. It had been magnificent. In his hands, the bird was silent, trembling, diminished. Yes, he admitted, it was more beautiful when it was free. The monk sat down on a rock and invited Kenzo to sit beside him. "Let me tell you a secret about possession," he said. "The things we try to hold on to most tightly are the things we lose most completely. Your fireflies dimmed because you trapped their light. Your butterflies lost their beauty because you confined their flight. And this bird cannot sing while it fears for its life." "But I wanted to keep them. I loved them." "Did you? Or did you love the idea of having them? There is a difference between loving something and needing to possess it. True love wants the beloved to flourish, even if that means letting them go. Possession, masquerading as love, wants the beloved to stay, even if it means they suffer." The monk continued,
The Buddha taught about attachment. He said that clinging is the root of suffering. When you try to hold on to things that are meant to flow, like birds, like life, like moments of beauty, you create suffering for yourself and for what you cling to. So I should let everything go, care about nothing? Not at all, the monk smiled. You can love the bird, you can appreciate its beauty, you can delight in its song, but you do this by allowing the bird to be what it is, a free creature of the sky. You can have a relationship with the bird without owning it. In fact, the only way to truly have a relationship with the bird is to not own it. The monk gestured to the sky, where several birds were flying. Do you own them? No. But you can see them, yes? You can hear their songs? You can enjoy their flight? Yes. Then in what way are you lacking? You have the beauty without the burden. You have the joy without the fear. Those birds give you their song freely, and you receive it freely. Nothing is trapped. Everything is flowing. This is the difference between appreciation and acquisition. Kenzo looked at the bird in his hands. Its eyes were wild with fear. Its feathers, which had seemed so brilliant when it was flying, now looked dull. "What should I do?" he asked. "That is for you to decide," the monk said. "But ask yourself, do you want a beautiful memory of a living bird in flight, or do you want a slowly dying bird in your hands? Do you want to be the boy who captures beauty, or the boy who celebrates it?" Kenzo thought about this for a long time. Finally, he understood. He opened his hands. For a moment, the bird sat still, as if not believing it was free. Then it spread its wings and flew up into the trees. And there, from a high branch, it began to sing, the most beautiful song Kenzo had ever heard. Tears came to his eyes, though he did not know if they were tears of sadness or joy, perhaps both. "Now you do not have the bird," the monk observed. "No," said Kenzo, "but I have something better. I have the knowledge that I helped something be free. I have the memory of its song. I have the understanding that I can appreciate beauty without destroying it." From that day forward, Kenzo stopped catching things. Instead, he learned to observe. He would sit quietly in nature, and the birds would come near. The butterflies would land on his shoulder. The fish would swim around his feet in the stream. He had more encounters with beauty than he ever had when he was trying to capture it, because he was no longer frightening it away. Tonight, as you rest, consider what you might be holding too tightly. What are you afraid to release? What relationships, outcomes, identities, or plans are you gripping so hard that your hands are cramping? What would it feel like to open your hands and let them rest, open, receptive, unafraid? You can love without possessing. You can care without controlling. You can appreciate beauty without capturing it. Let your hands relax. Let your grip soften. Let everything be free, including yourself. Open your hands. Open your heart. Open into rest.
Story 11. The Master's Laughter. In a strict Zen monastery, there was a monk named Jiro who was determined to become enlightened. He had read that enlightenment was the highest achievement, the ultimate goal. So he approached his practice with fierce intensity. He meditated for hours until his legs went numb. He studied koans until his head ached. He worked in the monastery gardens with grim determination. He never smiled, never relaxed, never allowed himself a moment of lightness. One day, a visiting master came to the monastery. This master was known for his deep wisdom, but also for something unusual. He laughed frequently. His laughter was full-bodied and genuine, erupting from him at unexpected moments. The strict monks of the monastery found this behavior somewhat disturbing. Surely an enlightened master should be serious, composed, dignified. During a formal tea ceremony, as everyone sat in perfect stillness, a mouse ran across the floor. The visiting master erupted in laughter. The sound was so unexpected, so uncontrolled, that several monks jumped in surprise. Jiro was scandalized. How could an enlightened master laugh at nothing? After the ceremony, Jiro approached the visiting master. "Excuse me, teacher," he said stiffly, "but I must ask, why do you laugh so much? Isn't enlightenment a serious matter? Isn't the path meant to be approached with dedication and gravity?" The master's eyes twinkled. "Tell me, Jiro, when you were a child, did you laugh?" "Yes, I suppose so." "Did you have to try to laugh? Did you have to work at it, practice it, achieve it?" "No, laughter just happened." "And now, do you laugh?" Jiro thought about it. "No, I don't have time for laughter. I am trying to become enlightened." The master let out another peal of laughter, so loud and joyful that it echoed through the hall. When he finally caught his breath, he said, "My dear Jiro, are you trying to become enlightened by becoming less human? You think the path to awakening is to cut away your capacity for joy. But isn't enlightenment about transcending human weakness, rising above the ordinary?" The master shook his head, still smiling. "What if I told you that enlightenment is not about transcending your humanity, but about fully embodying it? Not about becoming something other than human, but about becoming fully, completely human." He continued, "You think laughter is frivolous, beneath the dignity of a serious practitioner. But let me ask you, when you laugh, truly laugh, where is your worried mind? Where is your anxious self? Where is your striving ego?" Jiro had to admit, "When I laugh, those things disappear." Exactly. In true laughter, there is no self to defend, no goal to achieve, no future to worry about. There is only the present moment, fully alive, fully awake. This is why children are often more enlightened than serious monks. They know how to be completely present, completely engaged, completely themselves. The master stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden. The Buddha did not achieve enlightenment by becoming solemn and grim. He achieved it by waking up to reality as it is, which includes both suffering and joy, both sorrow and delight. He laughed, he smiled, he enjoyed good food and good company. He was not trying to become a stone statue of perfection. He was trying to be fully awake to the full catastrophe of being human. Jiro felt something crack in his rigid self-image. But if I laugh, if I enjoy myself, won't I become attached to pleasure? Won't I stray from the path? There is a difference, the master explained, between being addicted to pleasure and being open to joy. Addiction means you need the pleasure, you chase it, you suffer when you don't have it. Joy means you appreciate pleasure when it arises, without clinging to it or depending on it. You can laugh fully and then let the laughter pass. You can enjoy a meal fully and then let the enjoyment pass. Nothing is held, nothing is rejected. Everything is allowed to flow. He turned back to Jiro with gentle eyes. Your seriousness is a form of ego, you know. You think, I am a serious practitioner, I am working hard, I am special because of my dedication. But this too is a kind of pride, a kind of attachment. True practice is lighter than that.
It's playful even. Yes, you sit in meditation. Yes, you study. Yes, you work diligently. But you do it with a light touch, not with grim determination. The master picked up a stick from the floor and held it out. If I hold this stick very tightly, I can control exactly where it is, but my hand becomes tense, cramped. If I hold it very loosely, it might fall, but my hand is relaxed. The middle way is to hold it just firmly enough that it doesn't fall, but not so tightly that I am straining. This is how to hold everything in life, including your spiritual practice, just firmly enough, but with lightness. Over the following weeks, Jiro watched the visiting master carefully. He noticed that the master's laughter did not make him less wise or less compassionate. In fact, his joy seemed to make him more available, more present, more able to meet each moment with freshness. When someone was suffering, the master met them with deep compassion. When someone was celebrating, he met them with shared joy. When a mouse ran across the floor, he met it with laughter. He was not attached to any particular emotion. He was simply open to whatever arose. Slowly, Jiro began to soften. He allowed himself to smile at a joke. He laughed when something genuinely struck him as funny. He noticed that this did not make him less dedicated to his practice. If anything, it made him more present, more human, more real. One morning during meditation, Jiro suddenly understood the deepest koan he had been studying. The understanding arose not from his desperate striving, but from the spaciousness that had opened in him. And when the understanding came, he laughed. He laughed with such joy and surprise that several monks turned to look at him. And in that moment, he realized, the masters who laugh are not less enlightened. They are more enlightened, because they have released even their attachment to being serious. As you rest tonight, can you release the idea that you must be any particular way? Can you release the pressure to be perfect, productive, constantly improving? Can you allow yourself to simply be, with all your imperfections, all your humanity, all your messiness? You do not need to transcend being human. You only need to be fully human. And full humanity includes rest, includes softness, includes the ability to laugh at yourself and take things lightly. Let go of being good enough. Let go of trying so hard. Let yourself be wonderfully, imperfectly, completely yourself. Rest in your humanity. Rest in your wholeness. Rest in peace.
Story 12. The Silent Bell. In a monastery high in the mountains, there hung an ancient bell. It was said that this bell had a voice unlike any other. When struck properly, it produced a sound so pure, so beautiful, that anyone who heard it would instantly experience peace. Many monks had tried to ring this bell over the years, but none could produce the legendary sound. When they struck the bell, it made only a dull metallic thunk. The secret of how to ring the bell had been lost generations ago. A young monk named Aya became obsessed with discovering the secret. She read every text in the monastery library. She interviewed the oldest monks. She examined the bell from every angle. She tried striking it with different mallets, at different angles, with different amounts of force. Nothing worked. The bell remained stubbornly silent, producing only that dead, flat sound. Years passed. Aya's obsession grew. She neglected her other duties. She stopped sleeping well. All she could think about was the bell. If only I could hear its true sound, she thought, I would know peace.
One day, the abbot called her to his room. He was an ancient man, small and wrinkled, with eyes like deep wells. "Aya," he said gently, "I am worried about you. You are suffering." "I must discover the secret of the bell. I must hear its true sound." The abbot was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "Why do you want to hear the bell?" "Because its sound brings peace. If I could hear it, I would be at peace." "I see. So you believe peace is something you will have in the future after you achieve something?" Aya frowned. "Yes, after I discover the secret, after I hear the sound, then I will be at peace." The abbot smiled sadly. "And until then?" "Until then, I will keep searching, keep trying, keep working." "And how does this searching feel?" Aya stopped. She noticed, perhaps for the first time, the tightness in her chest, the tension in her shoulders, the exhaustion in her bones. "It feels terrible. I am miserable, but it will be worth it when I finally succeed." The abbot shook his head slowly. "My dear Aya, can you not see? You are suffering in the present, chasing a peace that exists only in your imagination of the future. You are choosing guaranteed misery now for the possibility of peace later. This is not wisdom, this is delusion." "But the bell—" "Let me tell you the truth about the bell," the abbot interrupted gently. "The true sound of the bell cannot be heard by one who is seeking. The bell rings only for one who is already at peace. That is the secret. That has always been the secret." Aya felt as though she had been struck. "But that's impossible. How can I be at peace before I hear the sound that creates peace?" "You have it backwards. The sound does not create peace. Peace allows the sound. Let me ask you, right now, in this moment, if you stopped seeking, if you stopped striving, if you simply were here, breathing, alive, is there actually anything wrong?" Aya looked around the abbot's simple room. She felt her breath moving in and out. She heard birds singing outside. She felt the floor beneath her. In this actual moment, no disaster was occurring. No tragedy was unfolding. It was just a moment, simple and quiet. "No," she admitted, "in this moment, nothing is wrong." "Then peace is available now, not in the future after you achieve something. Now. The question is, are you willing to recognize it?" "I have felt tears beginning to flow, but I've wasted so many years." "Those years were not wasted. They brought you to this moment of understanding. But yes, you can continue to waste years, or you can wake up now. You can continue to believe that peace is something you must earn, achieve, or discover. Or you can recognize that peace is your natural state, always available, simply obscured by your seeking." The abbot stood and walked to the window. The bell is a teaching tool. Some monks discover the secret quickly. Others take many years. Some never discover it. But the bell itself does not matter. What matters is the understanding it points to. Peace is not an achievement. It is a recognition. That evening, Aya sat in the meditation hall, not trying to figure anything out, not trying to achieve anything. She simply sat. She felt the rise and fall of her breath. She heard the crickets chirping. She noticed the thoughts passing through her mind like clouds, and for the first time in years, she was not trying to get somewhere else. She was here. A deep quiet settled over her, not the quiet of absence, but the quiet of presence, a fullness, a completeness, a sense of being exactly where she needed to be. Without planning to, almost as if her body moved on its own, she stood and walked to the bell. She picked up the mallet, and with no expectation, no agenda, no seeking, she struck the bell once. The sound that emerged was like nothing she had ever heard. It was as if the bell was singing,
a pure, crystalline note that seemed to contain all sounds and no sound simultaneously. The note hung in the air, shimmering, and Aya felt it reverberate in her chest, in her bones, in her very cells. But the strange thing was, the sound did not create peace. The peace was already there, had always been there. The sound simply revealed it, reflected it, celebrated it. She realized that she could have experienced this peace at any moment in the past years. It had always been available. She had simply been too busy seeking it to notice it. As you lie here tonight, can you stop seeking sleep? Can you stop trying to achieve rest? Can you simply allow yourself to be exactly as you are, without needing to be different, without needing to arrive anywhere? The peace you seek is not in the future after you fall asleep. It is here now, in the gentle darkness, in the softness of your bed, in the quiet rhythm of your breathing. Stop seeking. Start being. The bell is already ringing. Can you hear it? Rest now. Peace is here. It has always been here. You have arrived. Be still. Listen.
In a village known for its beautiful textiles, there lived a weaver named Suki. She'd learned the craft from her grandmother, who'd learned it from her grandmother before her. Suki could create the most intricate patterns, the most beautiful colors, transforming simple threads into works of art. But Suki had a problem. Every time she made a mistake, a thread pulled too tight, a color slightly off, a pattern broken, she would unravel the entire piece and start over. She could not tolerate imperfection. Her workshop was filled with unfinished weavings, each abandoned at the first sign of flaw. One day, a master weaver from a distant monastery came to the village. This weaver was famous for creating tapestries so beautiful that people would travel for weeks just to see them. Suki invited the master to her workshop, hoping to learn from her. The master looked at all the unfinished pieces. "Why are these not complete?" she asked. "They all have mistakes," Suki explained, showing her the tiny imperfections that had caused her to abandon each one. "I cannot sell flawed work. I cannot display imperfect art." The master picked up one of the abandoned pieces, examining it carefully. "I see a pulled thread here, yes, and the color is not quite what you intended here. But tell me, Suki, when you look at a tree, do you see it as flawed because not every leaf is perfect? A tree is natural. It's supposed to be irregular. And your weaving is not natural? You did not create it with your human hands, in your human fallibility, on a human day when perhaps you were tired or distracted or learning something new?" Suki had never thought of it this way. "But I want to create perfect beauty." The master smiled. "Let me show you something." She pulled out her own current project, a tapestry of a mountain landscape. Suki leaned in close and immediately saw imperfections. The sky had a section where the blue was slightly different. One of the mountains had an irregular edge. Several threads were pulled just a bit too tight, creating small puckers. "Master," Suki said hesitantly, "your tapestry has mistakes." "Does it?" the master asked. "Or does it have character? Does it have the marks of a human hand, a human heart, a human moment? When I made this section here," she pointed to the irregular mountain edge, "I had just received news that my sister had died. My hands were shaking. My tears fell on the loom. Should I have thrown it away because my grief showed in my work? I don't know." "Let me tell you a secret about perfection," the master said, sitting down cross-legged on the floor. "Perfection is a mathematical concept. It exists in the world of ideas, not in the world of things.
Everything that exists in the physical world is imperfect. Everything. The most beautiful flower has an asymmetrical petal. The most majestic mountain has an irregular shape. The most brilliant sunset has variations in color. And yet, we call these things beautiful, not despite their imperfections, but because of them. She continued, in the Japanese aesthetic tradition, there is a concept called wabi-sabi. It finds beauty in imperfection, in impermanence, in incompleteness. A cracked tea bowl is not less beautiful than a perfect one. In fact, the crack tells a story. It shows the bowl has been used, has been loved, has lived a life. The master picked up one of Suki's abandoned weavings, a piece with a broken pattern where Suki had miscounted the threads. Look at this mistake. It creates a moment of surprise in the pattern. The eye expects repetition and finds variation. This creates interest, catches attention, invites the viewer to look more closely. What you call a flaw, I call a moment of humanity, of authenticity. Suki felt tears welling up. But I have wasted so much material, so much time. I have so many unfinished pieces because I cannot accept imperfection. And that is the real tragedy, the master said gently. Not the imperfections themselves, but your unwillingness to accept them. You are rejecting not just the cloth, but yourself. Because you are human, you will make mistakes. You will have off days. You will misjudge colors, miscount threads, pull too tight or too loose. This is not a character flaw. This is being human. And every time you throw away a weaving because it shows your humanity, you are saying, I am not acceptable as I am. Only perfection is worthy. The master stood and walked to the window, looking out at the village. The Buddha taught about the middle way between the extremes of self-indulgence and self-punishment. But there is another middle way between carelessness and perfectionism. You can care about your craft without demanding the impossible from yourself. You can work with skill and attention without rejecting every piece that shows you are human. She turned back to Suki. I want you to try something. I want you to finish one of these pieces, any one. When you encounter a mistake, instead of unraveling it, work through it, work with it. Let it teach you. Let it show you new possibilities. A mistake in one direction might lead to unexpected beauty in another direction, or it might simply remain a visible imperfection. Either way, finish the piece, complete it. Let it exist in the world, exactly as it is. Over the following weeks, Suki did as the master suggested. She chose one of her abandoned pieces, a wall hanging with a color that had not quite matched her vision. Instead of unraveling it, she kept weaving. When she encountered the color variation, she worked with it, adjusting the surrounding colors to complement it rather than trying to match an imagined perfection. Something remarkable happened. The variation created depth. The mistake became a focal point, creating a visual rhythm that was more interesting than her original plan. The piece had personality. It had life. When she finished, she hung it in her workshop. At first, she could only see the imperfections, but slowly her eye adjusted. She began to see the whole piece, not just the flaws. And the whole piece was beautiful, not despite its imperfections, but as a complete expression of a moment in time, of a hand learning, of a heart engaged in creation. She began to finish her other abandoned pieces. Each one had its own character, its own story of imperfection and acceptance. People who visited her workshop were drawn to these pieces. They found them more compelling, more human, more real than the perfect weavings available elsewhere. One customer said, "Your pieces have soul. I can see you in them. They're alive." Suki realized this was true. Her imperfections were not flaws to hide. They were evidence of her presence, her humanity, her unique voice. Perfect repetition could be done by a machine. Only a human could make these particular beautiful mistakes. Years later, Suki became a teacher herself, and the first thing she would tell her students was, "You will make mistakes. These mistakes are not failures. They are invitations, invitations to work with reality as it is, rather than as you wish it to be. They are invitations to discover beauty in unexpected places. They are invitations to accept yourself exactly as you are." As you rest tonight, can you accept the imperfections of this moment? The way you didn't complete everything on your to-do list? The way you said something you wished you hadn't? The way you felt tired when you wanted to feel energized? Can you see these not as failures, but as evidence of your humanity? You are not a machine meant to function perfectly. You are a human meant to live authentically. Your imperfections are not flaws in your design. They are features of your humanity. Let yourself rest imperfect and whole. Let yourself be exactly as you are. The weaving of your life does not need to be perfect to be beautiful. Breathe into your imperfections. Accept them. Love them. They are yours. Rest now, wonderfully imperfect. Rest now, perfectly yourself.
Story 14. The Potter's Question. In a small village, there was a young potter named Ren who was consumed by questions. Every night, he would lie awake wondering, what is the meaning of life? Why do we suffer? What happens after death? Is there a God? Is there no God? What is truth? What is reality? These questions tormented him. He could not find peace because he could not find answers. He visited every teacher he could find, read every philosophy, practiced every meditation technique, but the more answers he found, the more questions arose. Each answer was like peeling away one layer only to find another layer beneath. His work suffered. He would sit at the potter's wheel, but his mind would be elsewhere, churning through metaphysical questions. His pots were distracted, asymmetrical, lifeless. One day, a wandering Zen master stopped at the village. Ren immediately sought him out. "Master," he said urgently, "I must know the truth. I cannot rest until I understand the fundamental nature of reality. Why are we here? What is the purpose of existence?" The master looked at him quietly, then asked, "Are you thirsty?" Ren was thrown by this response. "What?" "I asked if you are thirsty. It is a hot day. I would like some water. Are you thirsty?" Yes, I suppose I am, but I want to ask you about—" "Good," the master interrupted. "Let us get some water." They walked to the village well. The master drew a bucket of water, poured it into a cup, and handed it to Ren. "Drink," he said. Ren drank. The water was cool, clear, refreshing. "Now," said the master, "tell me about that water." "What do you mean? Describe the experience of drinking. Explain it to me in words." Ren tried. "Well, it was cool, wet. It quenched my thirst. It tasted like water." "Is that all?" the master asked. "Can you fully capture the experience in words? Can you explain to someone who has never had water what water truly is?" "No," Ren admitted. "Words cannot capture the direct experience." "Exactly," said the master. "The reality of water can only be known by drinking. No amount of philosophical discussion about water, no matter how sophisticated, can replace the simple act of drinking. You can debate the molecular composition of water, its chemical properties, its spiritual significance, but a thirsty person needs to drink, not to philosophize." Ren frowned. "But surely understanding the nature of reality is more important than understanding water."
The master smiled. Is it? Let me ask you, right now, in this moment, what is your most direct experience? Ren paid attention. I feel the sun on my skin. I hear the sound of the wind. I feel my feet on the ground. I see you standing before me. Yes, this is reality. Not reality as an abstract concept, but reality as direct experience. The sun, the wind, the ground, my presence. This is what is actually here. Everything else, your questions about meaning and purpose and ultimate truth, these are thoughts about reality, not reality itself. The master began to walk, and Ren walked beside him. They made their way to Ren's pottery workshop. Show me your work, the master said. Ren reluctantly showed him the pots he had made recently, all distracted, uncentered, lacking presence. The master picked up one pot, examining it carefully. This pot is asking too many questions, he said. What do you mean? A good pot does not wonder about its purpose. It does not question its existence. It simply is. It holds water. It sits on a shelf. It fulfills its nature without needing to understand why it has that nature. But this pot is divided. Part of it is trying to be a pot, and part of it is asking, why am I a pot? What is the ultimate meaning of potness? Ren felt seen in a way that made him uncomfortable. The master continued, you think your questions make you deep, make you spiritual, but your questions are a form of escape from the simple reality of being here, being present, being alive. You are so busy asking why that you are missing what. But surely seeking truth is important. There's a difference, the master explained, between the seeking that brings wisdom and the seeking that avoids life. Wisdom comes from full engagement with what is here. You learn about compassion by being compassionate, not by endlessly questioning the nature of compassion. You learn about peace by being present, not by philosophizing about the nature of presence. He picked up some clay and placed it in front of Ren. Make a pot, right now, but make it with your full attention. No questions, no wondering about the meaning of pottery. Just you, the clay, the wheel, direct experience. Ren sat at his wheel. He placed his hands on the clay. For a moment, his mind flooded with questions. What if I make it wrong? What is the point of making pots when there are cosmic questions to answer? Why pottery instead of philosophy? But then he remembered the master's teaching. He let the questions drift away like clouds. He felt the clay. He felt his hands. He felt his breath. He let his body remember what it knew. He centered the clay and began to shape it. Time disappeared. There was no Ren and the pot. There was just the forming, the shaping, the dance between hands and clay. No questions, no answers, just direct, immediate experience. When he finished, he had created the most beautiful pot he had ever made. It was centered, balanced, alive. It emerged from presence rather than thinking. The master smiled. Now you understand. This pot is an answer, but not to any question your thinking mind asked. It is an answer to the question of how to be fully alive in this moment. All the cosmic questions you have been asking, they are interesting for the mind, but they do not make your life more vivid. This pot, made with full attention, makes your life more vivid. Ren felt something shift. So I should stop asking questions. Ask questions when questions arise, but do not mistake questions for wisdom. Wisdom is knowing how to live, not knowing how to think about life. The Buddha was once asked dozens of metaphysical questions. Is the universe eternal? Is it finite? What happens after death?
The Buddha said these questions are not helpful. He compared them to a man shot with a poisoned arrow who refuses treatment until someone answers his questions about who shot the arrow, what kind of wood it was made from, what family the archer came from. The man will die while asking questions. The important thing is to remove the arrow. The master placed a hand on Ren's shoulder. You are asking questions while the arrow of suffering remains in your heart. Remove the arrow first. Be present, be awake, be engaged with life as it is. The deepest truth is found in living. As you lie here now, notice if your mind is asking questions. Why can't I sleep? What will tomorrow bring? What is wrong with me? What is the meaning of this restlessness? These questions are natural, but they keep you trapped in thinking about experience rather than experiencing directly. Can you let the questions go just for now and simply be with what is? The sensation of the bed beneath you, the temperature of the air, the rhythm of your breath, the darkness behind your eyelids. This is reality, not your thoughts about reality, but reality itself. Let the questions float away. Let the thinking mind rest. Be the clay on the wheel, simply allowing yourself to be shaped by this moment. No questions, no answers, just being, just breathing, just resting. This is enough. You are enough. This moment is enough. Rest now in the direct experience of being. The deepest truth is found here.
There was once a monastery with a famous gate. This gate was known throughout the land as the Gate of Liberation. It was said that anyone who passed through this gate with complete understanding would achieve instant enlightenment. Thousands of seekers made the pilgrimage to this monastery. But there was a problem. The gate was locked. And the key, it was said, could only be obtained by one who truly understood. A young seeker named May traveled for months to reach this monastery. When she arrived, she found dozens of other seekers camped outside the gate, all trying to figure out how to open it. Some were studying ancient texts, looking for clues. Others were meditating intensely, hoping for divine revelation. Some were trying to pick the lock. Others were attempting to climb over the walls. May joined them, trying every method she could think of. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. She studied with the scholars, meditated with the mystics, attempted lockpicking with the practical ones. Nothing worked. The gate remained locked. Finally, frustrated and exhausted, she sat down with her back against the gate and wept. "I have tried everything," she thought. "I am not meant for enlightenment." As she sat there in despair, an old monk came walking down the path from inside the monastery. He was carrying vegetables from the garden. He approached the gate from the inside. May wiped her tears and asked through the gate, "Old grandfather, please, can you tell me the secret of opening this gate?" The old monk looked at her with kind, crinkled eyes. "What gate?" he asked. "This gate," May said, exasperated. "The gate of liberation, the famous gate that leads to enlightenment." The monk set down his basket of vegetables. "Ah, that gate. May I ask you something? Why do you want to pass through this gate?" "Because beyond it lies enlightenment, liberation, truth." "I see. And what do you think you will find on the other side that you do not have on this side?" May thought about this. "Wisdom, peace, freedom from suffering, understanding." The monk nodded slowly. "Tell me, as you sit there right now, are you suffering?"
Yes, I am suffering from not being enlightened. The monk smiled gently. So you are suffering because you believe enlightenment is somewhere else, somewhere you are not. You are convinced that liberation is on the other side of this gate. Is that correct? Yes, exactly. And if you stopped believing that, if you stopped thinking that liberation was somewhere else, what then? May paused. She noticed her breath. She noticed the warmth of the sun. She noticed the feeling of the ground beneath her. In this actual moment, before the thought, "I am not enlightened," arose, was there suffering? I don't know. The monk continued. The gate is locked because there is no gate. The gate is a teaching device. We built it to show people that the freedom they seek is not on the other side of anything. It is here, now. The only thing separating you from liberation is your belief that you are separated from liberation. But I don't understand, protested May. Of course you don't understand. Understanding is another gate you think you need to pass through. But liberation does not require understanding. It requires seeing clearly what is already true. You are already free. You have always been free. The gate is an illusion. The lock is an illusion. The separation is an illusion. The monk picked up his basket. He watched closely, he said. He reached for the gate handle and pushed. The gate swung open easily. It had never been locked. May stared in disbelief. But everyone has been trying to open it for months. Yes, said the monk, because everyone has been trying. When you try to open something you believe is locked, you push with the force of that belief. You cannot open the gate while believing it is locked. The gate opens only for those who stop trying, stop believing in the gate, and simply push gently with no expectation. He gestured for May to come through. Hesitantly, she stood and walked through the gate. On the other side, the monastery garden looked exactly like the countryside she had come from. The same trees, the same sky, the same ground beneath her. Is this it? She asked, disappointed. The other side looks just like the side I was on. Of course it does, the monk laughed. Did you think liberation was a place with different scenery? Liberation is not about being somewhere different. It is about being who you are, where you are, without wishing to be someone else, somewhere else. He started walking toward the monastery, and May walked beside him. But all those people outside the gate, should I tell them? Should I tell them it was never locked? You can try, said the monk, but they will not believe you. They need to believe the gate is locked. It gives them purpose. It gives them something to seek. It allows them to postpone being at peace now by promising peace later. Everyone is welcome to walk through the gate at any moment, but most people would rather spend years trying to earn the right to walk through than simply walk through. May looked back at the gate. From this side, she could see a sign that had not been visible from outside. It read, "If you can read this, you have already passed through." She laughed. The cosmic joke had revealed itself. That evening, May sat with the abbot of the monastery, an ancient woman with eyes like galaxies. I understand the gate was never locked, but I still don't feel enlightened, May said. The abbot smiled. What do you think enlightenment feels like? I thought it would be more dramatic, more different. I thought I would be transformed. You are already transformed, said the abbot. You transformed the moment you realized you were seeking something you already had, but you are waiting for a feeling to confirm your transformation. This waiting is the last gate, the gate of expectation. What if enlightenment
does not feel like anything special? What if it simply feels like being fully yourself, fully here, fully at peace with what is? May sat with this. She noticed she was expecting enlightenment to feel extraordinary, but this expectation was creating a gap, a seeking, a not yet here quality. "So what do I do?" she asked. "Nothing," said the abbot. "Stop doing, stop seeking, stop waiting for confirmation. Simply be. You have already passed through the gate. Now live from that understanding." May spent the rest of her life in that monastery. Students would sometimes ask her, "Are you enlightened?" She would always respond, "I don't know. I used to think enlightenment was something to achieve. Now I simply live. Is that enlightenment? I cannot say, but I am at peace, and that seems more valuable than any label." As you rest tonight, notice if you are waiting for some future moment when you will finally be at peace, when you have solved all your problems, when you have achieved your goals, when you have become the person you think you should be. That moment is a gate that appears locked, but it is not locked. It has never been locked. Peace is available now, not later, now. You do not need to earn it. You do not need to become worthy of it. You do not need to pass through any gate. You simply need to stop believing you are on the wrong side of the gate. Where you are is where you need to be. Who you are is who you need to be. This moment is the moment. Walk through the gate that has no gate. Enter the liberation that has no entrance. Arrive at the destination you never left. You are home. You have always been home. Rest now in that homecoming. The gate is open. You are free. Rest.
In a monastery famous for its scholarship, there was a monk named Kaito who had devoted his entire life to studying maps. He had maps of the region, maps of the country, maps of the world. He had ancient maps, modern maps, topographical maps, celestial maps. His room was covered wall to wall with maps. Kaito could tell you about any location on Earth. He could describe mountains he had never climbed, rivers he had never crossed, cities he had never visited. He could recite the names of distant villages, the heights of far-off peaks, the lengths of remote valleys. One day, a new monk arrived at the monastery. Her name was Akane, and she had spent the past 10 years walking across the country. She had climbed mountains, forded rivers, slept under stars in deserts and forests and plains. Her feet were calloused, her face was weathered, and her eyes held the depth of someone who had truly seen. The abbot thought it would be interesting for these two monks to share a conversation. He arranged for them to have tea together. Kaito was excited to share his knowledge. He pulled out his maps and began to describe the regions Akane had traveled through. "You crossed the northern range here," he said, pointing to a line on the map. "The highest peak is Mount Ryu at 3,776 meters. Did you see it?" "I saw many peaks," Akane said. "I did not know their names or heights." Kaito frowned. "But surely you knew you were crossing the northern range." "I knew I was crossing mountains," Akane said simply. "Very cold mountains with snow and wind." Kaito found this frustrating. Here was someone who had actually been to these places, but she seemed to know less than he did. "But didn't you want to understand where you were? Didn't you study maps before you went?" Akane smiled gently. "I had a rough map that showed directions, but I learned that the map is not the territory. The map showed a line for the river, but it could not show the sound of the water, the cold of the splash, the strength of the current. The map showed green for the forest, but it could not show the smell of the pines, the feeling of bark under my hands, the way light filters through leaves."
But the map gives you knowledge, Kaito insisted. It gives you understanding. Does it? Akane asked. Tell me, Kaito, have you ever climbed a mountain? No, but I know about mountains. I know their heights, their positions, their geological formations. Do you know what it feels like when your lungs burn from thin air? Do you know the fear of looking down from a narrow ledge? Do you know the joy of reaching a summit after days of climbing? Do you know the taste of snow melted in your mouth when you run out of water? Kaito was silent. Akane continued kindly. I do not mean to diminish your knowledge. Maps are useful. They help us plan, help us navigate, but they are not the territory. They are representations, symbols, abstractions. You have knowledge about the world. I have experience of the world. These are different things. The abbot, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. This is an important teaching. In Zen, we talk about the difference between the finger pointing at the moon and the moon itself. The finger is useful. It shows you where to look, but if you stare at the finger, you miss the moon. He continued, words, concepts, maps, scriptures, philosophies, these are all fingers pointing. They are not the truth itself. They are representations of truth. You can study maps your whole life and never see a mountain. You can read about meditation for decades and never experience a moment of stillness. Kaito felt defensive. But surely intellectual understanding is important? It can be useful as a starting point, the abbot said, but many people mistake the finger for the moon. They accumulate knowledge and think they have gained wisdom. They read about compassion and think they are compassionate. They study texts about enlightenment and think they understand enlightenment. But knowing about something and knowing it directly are entirely different things. Akane added, when I first started walking, I had many ideas about the journey. I had read travel accounts, studied maps, imagined what it would be like. But all of those ideas dissolved when I actually began walking. The real journey was nothing like the map. It was harder, stranger, more beautiful, and more real than any description could capture. Over the following months, Kaito found himself deeply troubled by these conversations. He had spent his entire adult life accumulating knowledge. Was it all worthless? One day he went to the abbot in distress. Master, I do not know who I am anymore. I thought I was a scholar, someone who understood the world, but now I see I only understand maps, not territories. What should I do? The abbot looked at him with compassion. You have two choices. You can defend your maps, insist that they are enough, and remain in this room for the rest of your life. Or you can put down the maps and go see the actual mountains. But I'm old now, Kaito protested. I am not strong like Akane. I cannot undertake such journeys. Who said you need to walk across the country? The abbot smiled. There is a garden right outside this monastery. Have you ever truly seen it? Not looked at it, but truly seen it? There is a tree outside your window. Do you know what kind of tree it is from your studies? Yes, it's a cherry tree. Have you ever sat beneath it, felt its shade, watched its blossoms fall, put your hand on its bark, really seen it with fresh eyes, not through the filter of knowledge? Kaito realized he had not. He looked at the tree every day, but he had never truly seen it. He knew its species, its typical lifespan, its scientific name, but he did not know this tree, this particular collection of branches and roots and leaves growing in this particular patch of earth. That afternoon, Kaito did something he had not done in 40 years. He left his maps in his room and went outside. He sat beneath the cherry tree, and for the first time he saw it, really saw it, the unique way this particular branch curved, the specific texture of this bark, the individual variation in the leaves, the way light filtered through the canopy. He sat there for hours just seeing,
No naming, no analyzing, no categorizing, just direct seeing. When he returned to his room that evening, the maps looked different. They looked like what they were, useful tools, representations, but not reality itself. He could appreciate them without mistaking them for the territories they described. He became a different kind of scholar after that. He still studied maps, but he also walked in gardens. He still read books, but he also sat in silence. He still accumulated knowledge, but he tested that knowledge against direct experience. And he learned that the richest understanding comes not from choosing between maps and territories, but from holding both, using maps to navigate, while never forgetting that the real journey happens in direct contact with reality. Years later, students would ask him, "What is the most important thing you have learned?" He would always say that all my learning was just a finger pointing. The real wisdom began when I stopped staring at the finger and looked at what it was pointing towards. As you rest now, notice the thoughts you have about rest. You might have ideas about what good sleep should feel like, theories about why you can't sleep, beliefs about what relaxation requires. These thoughts are maps. They are representations of rest, not rest itself. Can you set aside the maps? Can you stop thinking about rest and simply rest? Not rest as you imagine it should be, but rest as it actually is, right here, right now, in this bed, in this body. Feel the actual sensations, the actual breath, the actual weight of your body. This is the territory. This is real. Let go of the maps. Touch the mountain. Be the breath. Rest in direct experience. No concepts, no ideas, no maps. Just this, just now, just being. Rest.
And now, dear friend, as these stories settle into your mind like snowflakes falling on still water, let us take a few final breaths together. You have heard of monks and gardens, of bells and rivers, of wolves and empty boats. But all these stories point to one simple truth. Peace is not somewhere else. Awakening is not in the future. Home is not a place you must journey to. You are already home. Feel your body, here, now. This body that has carried you through this day. This body that knows how to breathe without your instruction. This body that is already beginning to relax, to release, to surrender into sleep. There is nothing you need to do. No one you need to become. No achievement you must attain. You can rest in the simple, profound truth of your existence. You are a wave in the ocean, and also the ocean itself. You are a note in the symphony, and also the silence between notes. You are both the journey and the destination, the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer. All the wisdom teachers throughout history have pointed to this moment, this breath, this simple presence. The Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, the Taoist sage laughing by the river, the Christian mystic praying in silence, the Sufi poet spinning in ecstasy. All paths lead here, to the eternal now, to the peace that surpasses understanding. And that peace is not exotic, it is not rare. It is as close as your next breath, closer. It is what you are when you stop trying to be anything else. So let go now. Let go of the day that has passed. Let go of the tomorrow that has not yet come. Let go of being good enough, smart enough, spiritual enough, awake enough. Let go of all the stones you have been carrying. Simply be. Be this breath.
Be this heartbeat. Be this mysterious awareness that witnesses all things without being touched by anything. The ancient teachers speak of falling awake, not striving toward awakening, but falling into it, the way you fall into sleep. A letting go, a release, a surrender. So surrender now, not to anything outside yourself, but to your own deepest nature, to the peace that is your birthright, to the love that is your essence, to the vast, spacious awareness that has always been here, waiting patiently for you to come home. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop, and the ocean is calling you home. Can you hear it? The gentle waves of your breath, the tides of your heartbeat, the vast stillness beneath all movement. Come home, come home, come home. Rest in the arms of the mystery. Rest in the heart of the universe. Rest in the simple, sacred fact of your existence. You are loved. You are whole. You are enough. May you sleep deeply. May you dream beautifully. May you wake refreshed, knowing that you are always, already home. Peace be with you. Peace be in you. Peace be as you. Rest now, dear one. Rest.